is soul calling, which you go into a meditation, and you go into this etheric reality, and you go with a animal spirit guide, sometimes a very special one called a power animal. And you ask that animal spirit guide to take you to the soul piece that most needs to come back, the most needs to be recovered. And it's amazing what happens, KG. I mean, people will find lost soul parts that they're actually surprised at, but when it's returned, it makes sense. And so that spirit animal that takes you there will also help you bring that soul piece back.
Well, could you speak a little bit more about, what are animal spirit guides and how are they different from totem animals or power animals?
Yeah, and again, I've got a couple of books on this, but the one that people seem to resonate with quite a bit is called Animal Spirit Guides. And in there's like 200 plus spirit animals. I can't possibly put every animal on the planet in there, but 200 and some of the more common animals that people might come across. And I make reference to it also in Earth Magic. An animal spirit guide is a general term, and that's any animal that comes to you, whether it's a physical form or a symbol or representation of that animal. Any animal that comes to you in an unusual way or repeatedly. Like there was, a situation that came up where I was it was on a Monday, and I was going to have this very intense meeting, and I was a little worried about on Thursday. So I had about 3 days to prepare for it. I'm out taking out the recycling and the trash, and I hear this screech overhead, and it's a very familiar screech. It's hawk. It's a hawk. I look up, and there's a hawk flying over, talking, screeching in that high-pitched sound. Beautiful, beautiful red tail. Oh, probably 15 feet above my head. And I went, okay, what does this mean? And this is the part where I encourage people, you could look it up in my book or, the internet or something to see what possible meanings are. But I eventually like people to go to ask the spirit of that animal himself or herself. In other words, okay, hawk spirit, what is the message? And then when you ask, you pay attention to everything. You pay attention to what you hear, what you see, whether it's outside you or inside your head, feelings in your body, thoughts that come to you. Just pay attention to whatever shows up in whatever way it shows up. And I would maintain to you that's the message. You just got to pay attention. So when I asked, what I heard is keep your perspective. In other words, don't get emotionally tangled up in this upcoming meeting. Detach, which doesn't mean don't care. It just means step back from it. I went, that's great advice. Tuesday, next day, I'm up at the storage bin in the canyon here in Laguna Beach and taking some things from the storage. Spot a bird, flying around the hills over there. I thought it was a vulture, California vulture. But as it circled closer, I went, oh my God, it's another hawk. There's two.
Wow, that's a confirmation.
And I closed my eyes and said, okay, let's get serious here, Mr. Animal Spirit Guide guy. What's the message, Brother Hawk? And the most interesting thing happened, KG, is I heard a song in my ear. And the song is a piece of a Bob Marley tune. And the words were, every little thing is going to be all right. Now, I listen to Marley once in a while. I haven't listened to him for a long time, so it was very unusual to hear that. I knew that was a message from Hawk Brother. I went and looked up the story. I tried to find the tune. I couldn't find it, so I went, asked my daughter, and she says, oh, it's called Three Little Birds. I finally found it on iTunes. Listened to the song, and the words were great. He wakes up some morning. He feels really good. He sees the sun coming through. He goes out to his window, and there he notices three little birds, and that's what they're saying to him. Three little birds are saying every little thing is going to be all right. So there's my message. And third day I had another hawk visitation, and the meeting went very well on Thursday. And on my way home, opposite each other on some high wires, I saw two hawks.
All right.
We told you so.
Yes.
So that's an example of animal spirit guide.
And unusual they would show up as a pair because you just had that union or meeting of minds almost.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I didn't think about that, but that's that's a good another take on that. You know, the meaning of the minds. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what spoke to me. You're very good at getting the spirit messages to come through. I appreciate what a clear channel you are for things just showing up. I want to ask you, I had this unusual animal spirit guide experience where this little boy came and rang my doorbell. I answered the door, and he was very concerned because across the street was a raccoon that was up on someone's porch, and he said, they're nocturnal, and I'm really concerned about why he's up at that person's door. So that was very unusual to have a child come ring my doorbell to tell me about this raccoon across the street that was out and about. So it was like, wow. It really, I thought about it, and it did have a message for me.
And what did,
but I wanted to ask you, what does raccoon, do you know what raccoon?
Well, let me ask you, if you'd be willing to share it on the radio, what was the message you got?
That my divine inner child was, I needed to comfort and console my own inner divine child, that it was okay to allow these things that usually are of the night, for them to come forward into the day and for me to be aware of them.
That's beautiful. And that's often what I do when I'm doing readings on my radio show is I will, and I'll tell you why, as I ask the caller often, I say, what does it mean for you? Because I am convinced, first off, that many times people have a hunch, call it a hunch, as to what the significance is or the message or the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is the tools that I've offered, the Power Animal Oracle cards, the messages from your Animal Spirit Guides Oracle cards, Earth Magic, Animal Spirit. I see these, particularly the animal ones, as bridges. In other words, what people often do is that they'll look up raccoon. And I'll answer your question too, but I want to do a little, talk about this a little bit. They look up a raccoon, and out of, let's say, an Animal Spirit Guides, they look up raccoon and they go, oh, okay, out of the, 6 or so possible messages, 1 or 2 will jump out, and they go, oh, man.
Yeah, it will resonate.
Yeah, it will resonate. Or click. They'll go, oh, okay, I get it. And that happens almost inevitably. But again, KG, I think these are bridges. I mean, I'm pleased to offer these. Ultimately, what I'd like folks to do is to well, what does it mean for you? Check it out. See if you, because then it empowers that person. Mm-hmm. That they start to pay attention to either the internal dialogue, mm-hmm. The messages that come through auditory, or they get visions or whatever it may be that elaborate on the meaning of that particular encounter. Mm-hmm. So that's why when I ask you, I do the same with almost everybody. And I'm not, I guess I'm considered to be an expert in some way, but I think everybody's their own expert ultimately. It's just a matter of encouraging
ultimately,
and coaching,
each individual is their best.
So raccoon, in answer to your question, if I were to put it in one word, which is not fair to the spirit of raccoon, but in one word, is resourcefulness. Mm-hmm. That in fact, raccoon is a reminder through this child that your inner, as you put it, I like the way you said that, your inner divine child is really a wealth of resources for you. Mm-hmm. Is another perspective on that, let's mm-hmm. say. But raccoon is about resourcefulness, appearing during the day, bringing the shadows into the light, I think is what you referred to. Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful piece right there, too. Mm-hmm. Not be fearful of them, to approach them with the innocence of a child. Mm-hmm. Not to be in awe of the world, in awe of the, it's a little vague to say this, but in awe of the magic of the world. Wow, mm-hmm. here's a raccoon. To be willing to not expect isn't the word, but the word I'm coming to is surprises. Mm-hmm. To delight in the surprises. The childlike enthusiasm of the surprises, and at that time also suggesting to you perhaps that there will be surprises, mm-hmm. almost like a prescient sort of quality to the sighting and to the experience with this child. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a surprising event. It was an unusual event in my day.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's an animal spirit guide. Power animal is one that the idea comes from shamanism, but again, you don't have to be into shamanism to do this. It's like a main animal spirit guide. It's one